different grade level, and we made videos. So we kind of did a flipped classroom, kind of. We would put it out there, they could watch the video, re-watch it, and then when we got on to live meet with them, we would answer questions and help them on anything they misunderstood or had questions on or whatever. So that's kind of what we did for the COVID period, and we're still kind of in that, but now we're in person. So basically what we do every meeting is kind of the same. We start with our pacing. This year I feel like we've been more focused on trying to stay in the same pacing area in case we do have to go virtual. It's a lot easier if you're in the exact same spot to just kind of pick up from there. We work on our common assessment data. Those are those quizzes that Mrs. Blank was talking about off their homework. We always see how many kids we have and what percentile they're at. And then we really focused this year on just looking at our tests. You know, we've been in the curriculum for a few years now, and when we made the test, we felt good about it, but now there's like some questions where we're like, do they really know what they're asking here? Could we word this in a better way or look at those? And I think, I'm speaking for all of us, but I think that next year we'll probably look kind of into our quizzes a little bit more. That'll be kind of our focus for our PLC group. So that's kind of what we do on Wednesdays and when we meet, what we're up to.
So thank you for your time and allowing us to come in and present to you. But if you do have any questions, we would be glad to answer them at this time.
Are you the only one at Cedar Hollow?
I am. There's special education teachers too. In the past, Mrs. Footman had been pulling kids separately and she would teach. They've kind of gotten into my classroom, and with her being in there and assisting this year, it's kind of gone on and off depending on their level of where they're at and the success that we want them to achieve too. There are a few in 8th grade this year that are with Mrs. Connie Kochner and not directly in my classroom.
Would you two explain kind of your day as far as half the day you're teaching math, the other half you're helping out in other areas?
Sure. In the morning I teach math, and then so I teach 6th, 7th, 8th grade math and algebra, and I also do the middle school interventions, which all our other middle school people do as well. And then in the afternoon I work on small groups, kind of fun. I get to teach kindergartners to read, so that's pretty fun. And then I have a 5th grade reading group, and then I have my plan time. So I just have individual meeting groups. Just as an interventionist, we always need more bodies and things like that. So that's what I do during my day.
And my morning is the same. I have all the math in the morning, and then I do HAL. So that's the high ability learning. I do that on Mondays. So I meet with those kids, and then I also I help in the reading language arts for the middle school, because I know the middle school kids better, so I work with them. And then I have a M class group of 5th graders, which I don't know if you know what M class is. It's a reading group, so I help those students. That's how I spend my afternoon.
And how are your classrooms being utilized when to kind of explain the whole trimester rotating thing? When you're not in your teaching math, how is your classroom being utilized?
My room's my room, in the sense that that's where I'll take, like, if
so you use your actual classroom for
I use my actual classroom for my 5th grade group of students. That's where we go hang out. And then for the ELA that I help with, we get whole classroom instruction, but then if there's modifications or students want the test read aloud to them or need the test read aloud to them, or small group discussion or something like that, I take those kids with the different abilities into my room and work with them.
And my room in the morning is math, and then Mr. Muscle travels from 1R. He's the science teacher, and he teaches science in my room. I have the science room. It has all the sinks, the science tables. So then I go into other classrooms. I go into the kindergarten room for kindergarten intervention, the 5th grade room for 5th grade intervention, and then I share plan time with another middle school teacher in the same room. So we go into other classrooms. My room's taken up during the day, so.
Thank you.
I don't know how the PLCs work, but how much do you guys communicate with the high school math department Or is there any communication between the two of you?
So we all just got it. Well, I'm assuming we all just got the email.
Oh, yes, from the counselor.
From the counselors and stuff. So our 8th graders that feed into Northwest, we get asked what recommendations that we would place them in for our math. You know, because we're feeding and where they're at. We know our kids, and there's a lot of times that a high school math teacher will come to us and say, okay, which one of you had so-and-so, and can you give me some feedback on them, and how best can I help them and stuff like that. And then we have a vertical meeting,
Usually twice.
a year.
That
Where
we
we,
can
Have
meet
they
with.
done that for a while, or when did that all start?
well, the vertical meeting didn't happen last year because we were all not in building. So a lot of things didn't happen last year, but usually it happens.
Usually April, late
Yeah.
March, April is when we meet with those high school teachers.
We do that K-12 too, so kindergarten.
But it doesn't actually take place on the Wednesday afternoons?
No, it
It's a
does.
different
It
time.
does.
Most of the time, because we're all in the same place.
Right,
so
because we're all scheduled to do it.
It's a,
Any other questions for our math teachers? Okay, thank you ladies very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 7, report of committees. I know our building and site committee met earlier, or last week, I guess. Zach, I think you're on that committee.
I don't have my notes. Just trying to think. Well, we have a couple of things on the agenda, obviously, that we'll get to next. I guess other things that we talked about, briefly, I guess, about the science labs part of the deal. But we met the next morning, so I mean, actually for that, we didn't have any real, Dr. Edwards helped me out here. I feel like it was a pretty tame meeting.
Yeah. Talked about the 2 agenda items, science rooms, a little bit about door access and what we did here at the high school last year. Started looking at some carpet bids that will come forward in the future, and that's about it.
So are any of those items you guys want to go into more detail? The items that aren't agenda items, as far as like carpet or what is it, access, door access code?
No, the carpet, we're going to, Mr. Fitzgerald's asked the 3 feeder schools for carpet areas that need to be replaced, as well as here at the high school, so that'll be information that'll come at a later buildings and sites meeting and into the full board for approval.
Any questions for them? Before we look at each of them individually? Okay, well then we'll move on to that first. I guess this is just a discussion item. In the last month or so, we met with, or back in November, we hired Wilkins to do a preliminary study for revamping our science labs here at the high school. I guess we've come to the end of that part of the study. Myself, Paul, and Zach met with Jacob from Wilkins. And Becky was there, excuse me, I'm sorry, last, was it Thursday or Friday? And got some numbers from him, like at the board retreat. That was the first presentation of his numbers. We kind of went through those as far as breakdown for individual cost of things, as far as how much renovation, and then broken down into overhead fees, all of that. And I guess Dr. Edwards emailed everyone kind of a revamped projection of those numbers over the weekend. That I guess during our meeting, I guess it kind of got to a point where the three of us felt like the original numbers of the 500 plus thousand probably didn't stand much chance of moving forward down the road as far as the project. So we kind of asked him to revamp the numbers in the light of just looking at the two actual physical lab spaces and kind of foregoing doing any remodeling to Mr. Olson's room. So that's kind of what the email shows that Dr. Edwards sent over the weekend as far as the new numbers. Anything you guys add to that?
Not really, I mean, I guess I agreed with asking them to do it in those two rooms as opposed to, it looked like for the scope of work, it was far too expensive. And it looked like if you could condense all of the water, gas, plumbing into two rooms that already sit right next to each other, it may make the deal a little more affordable. And those two labs are used not on a daily basis, but on sometimes more than others, but it is not a consistent class going on every period of the day. So it looked like we could probably do those two labs. They definitely need work, and I think we all kind of want to do something. I don't know, about $500,000 or $550,000 for the scope of the work. It looked to me like it was too expensive.
So yeah, that was basically our meeting as far as kind of what that said. Put our focus on the actual lab spaces, and I think we would all agree, looking at the labs, that the one is original to the building, and the other one, chemistry lab, does need some help as far as some rust issues and corrosion issues going on in there. So. Any questions from anyone? As far as a timeline, I guess you want to speak more to that, Dr.
Yeah, we asked Jacob in order to get the construction renovations done this summer and be up and running by the start of school in August, what the timeline looks like, and of course, basically kind of working back with construction starting right as school gets out. You really need to be out to bid by April. Prior to that, you need to have the bids out for at least 3 weeks. That way it gives some time to do some bid analysis for the approval at the May board meeting. In all reality, one of the questions that was asked is, could we wait till the March board meeting if we wanted to move forward? And that probably time-wise won't happen. So based on our discussion tonight, if this is something that the district wants to move forward with, we need to schedule a special board meeting here probably within the next 7 days, I would say, just so we can get it on the docket and give him the go-ahead to start preparing, the official drawings or the official bid documents to go out.
So for all transparency, what we're talking about, a board retreat, he came with a number of roughly 560,000 total for all 3 rooms. By narrowing that down to just focusing on the 2 lab rooms, came in with a construction cost of $263 with and then the fees and stuff on top of that, $290. So basically cut $250,000 off of the total project cost of what his original estimate was. But I think it, for us tonight, or at least our committee talked when we met, that we didn't feel like it was appropriate to ask him to go get new numbers put together over the weekend and then have it on tonight for something to vote on, and with no previous discussion. So tonight, I guess, is the time for open discussion as to if we are wanting to move forward to have a special board meeting to get this done this summer or not, I guess. Or if we still want to look at different numbers or a different project overall, different, you know, tweaking this even. So that's what tonight is for, is to discuss how we want to move forward on this.
Are there any science teachers here?
Not tonight.
There's not.
And I guess the other thing is, this is a cost estimation. We won't know actual bid prices till it would go to a bid. And
Yeah.
But
just,
his original was a cost estimation.
Correct.
Right, and
Correct.
so we can at least see
Yeah.
it's a significant savings.
Yeah. and if you remember his cost projection that he had that night at the board retreat, he had also had a contractor look at it, and they were within the same ballpark, so. Doesn't mean that when this goes to bid, that's what comes in, you know, kind of subject to time and material costs, so.
I wouldn't expect, I guess, the construction cost to be any more than what his number is here. I think he's conservative on these numbers as far as the high end of things. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
I hope so.
That's what he said, he was going for a high estimate, to get plenty of room, that's what he told me.
So,
I don't have any expertise to feel verify that.
I didn't know if you estimated the new tables compared to old tables. You know, we talked about reworking the ones we got or
Yeah,
putting
this-
new in.
This has the new all new countertops.
This is with all new countertops?
Right.
Okay. New sinks, whatever. Did we find out if they're particle board or?
No,
what
they are the science.
They are, the ones we have now are?
I wanna say epoxy, I mean,
Yeah, that's what he
I
There
believe
was
what they
one-
were talking about was just one, portable cart that they kind of fabricated into a,
Oh, yeah.
sink, I guess.
I guess I would like to move forward with it, so we have to do whatever we need to do. I mean, I just think that it needs a little attention, and I can't see putting it off is gonna make it any better. So,
Do you have a preference between the old plan and the new plan that was emailed to you here somewhere in the last 48 hours?
As far as just the
oh,
two
yeah,
rooms
no,
versus
right,
the
just the
three
two,
rooms.
yes, I agree, yeah. I'm happy that you guys took the time to pare it down a little bit. I agree with that.
Good job, Dan.
Well, and I liked some of the other suggestions of maybe some of the other movement that could happen in the room that has water and other access might be a better situation for some of the other classes. And moving the chemistry classroom to, what is it, one of the math classrooms that's next door to the current lab, where it was originally a science room apparently, and so there's some shifting that can happen, but also sounded positive. But I think the labs definitely need to be renovated, and I don't know, I think let's get it this time. I have a daughter who's gonna be taking chemistry next year, so, you know, I have a personal interest in, like, let's have this be a positive experience.
I guess as far as, our work with the Wilkins group, I guess as far as our original, contract with them for the $1,000, that basically ends with this estimate here, or projection, I shouldn't say estimate or bid, but.
So basically, the motion that would be presented at the special board meeting would be to authorize Wilkins Architecture to prepare the bid documents and move forward. Again, it doesn't commit the board to the project, that's once the bids actually come in. But it does give them the authorization to move forward and get the ball rolling.
So as far as any fees or anything to the architect group, let's just say we approve them to go bid this out, we get 3-4 bids that we don't like, they're higher than what we projected here, is there fees to them still a percentage of the estimate of the project, or?
I would say there'd be some cost. I couldn't tell you what that is tonight, but I can find out for you.
Is it on the one estimate you sent us?
That's for the projected cost would be a 10% professional design, but that would be for the overall, all the way through the project. So that would be bid documents all the way to completion. It would include oversight of the actual construction itself as well.
Yeah, the 26,331 would be their fees.
Correct.
Yeah, yep.
But what it would be just to get you up to the bid point, I don't know what percentage of that would be that fee.
Okay.
But I guess I would be in favor of moving forward with this project and trying to get it done during this stretch of summer. So I would be in favor of holding a special board meeting, means how they project it's in our benefit to get this ball rolling before March. I do know cost of construction materials has gone up quite a bit. I don't know if it's gonna change that much in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but who knows? Does anyone disagree with not having a special board meeting to move forward with this, or?
I'm ready to pick it
Okay.
I was gonna say, do we have to vote on that, or do we just pick it?
No, it's discussion, so
So we're looking like, we have, the 15th or the 22nd, most likely.
say the 15th. He's gonna want the 15th, just gives him more time to get things ready.
I guess, is there any other information anybody would like prior to that? Prior to a special board meeting? And the board meeting would consist of this agenda item, that would be the only thing on it, so. Does next Monday work for everyone?
Have to be on Monday.
No, if there's a freshman basketball game.
So it doesn't have to be in the evening either.
I was just like, could be a different time, maybe a little earlier, a little later,
Yeah.
depending on when the game is. That's the thing.
Well, I guess, is your basketball game at 6, Zach, I assume?
There is a game. It's, I don't know, it's middle school basketball. It's hard to tell when they're actually A, B, C, starts at 4:30, but that depends on who knows if they have 3 teams playing or 2 teams playing or 1 team
Was it,
playing.
what is that? I'm sorry. Is it Central City?
It is, no, it's actually at home. It says, or
But
it says
it's
it's
Central
Cedar Hall.
City?
I don't know, it's not that detailed on my calendar. that I
We
share
do
with my
2
wife.
games that night. If it
2
is.
games?
Yeah, let me check. But not the thing. So it'd be like 4:30 and
5:30.
Mr. Mizzou or something.
Yep, 4:30, 5:10.
If it's 2. which I think is-
At Cedar Hall.
Yeah,
So
it's here.
7 o'clock board meeting
That would work.
would work, okay.
On the 15th?
A week from today.
That's the date.
Does that work? Okay, so then we'll plan on that, and we'll have, Sharon and Dr. Edwards will have all the information published later this week, so the public has plenty of time to review and all that jazz. Okay, any more discussion on the science room topic? Okay, we'll move on to item 9, action items. First item, 9.1, is to accept staff resignations from Kimberly Coates and Karen Greener, effective at the end of the current school year. Any questions regarding this? Anything you would like to add about? I entertain a motion regarding.
Move to accept the staff resignations from Kimberly Coates and Karen Greener effective at the end of this current school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to accept the staff resignations of Kimberly Coates and Karen Greener effective at the end of the current school year. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. Okay, motion carries with everyone voting in favor. 9.2 is the early retirement application submitted by Karen Greener, effective at the end of the current school year. Anything more you'd like to explain on an early retirement application?
No, February 1st was the deadline to submit. So the two that we've received this year will be it for this school year.
Okay, any questions on that? I'd entertain a motion then.
You're doing good, Rob.
Okay, I
Too
move to
bad.
accept the early retirement application submitted by Karen Greener effective at the end of the current school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to accept the early retirement application for Karen Greener. Any further discussion? We will vote. Okay, motion carries with all board members voting in favor. 9.3 is a change to policy 5418. Dr. Edwards has an update on this.
Okay. This past week, Mr. Herzberg, Mr. Stepanek, and myself had the privilege of going through a Title I and IIA 3-year annual review. As a part of that, the board policy 5418, homeless student policy, there were some changes at the federal level. So we need to revise our policy and strike out the 4 words "to the extent feasible" and replace that with 4 words "it shall be presumed." And this is specifically talking about with a homeless student, it shall be presumed the placement shall be in the school of origin, except when such is contrary to the wishes of the homeless child's parent or legal guardian. If the placement is not in the school of origin or a school requested by the homeless child's parent or legal guardian, the district shall provide a written explanation of the placement decision and a statement of appeal rights to the parent or guardian. So obviously that deals with districts that have multiple buildings at certain grade levels. This is just saying that you will place a homeless child in their building, school of origin, and if you don't, and evidently, to the extent feasible was not specific enough for the federal government, so you now have to say it shall be presumed. So that is the recommendation to revise board policy 5418 tonight.
Okay, anybody have any questions regarding the change to the policy? Okay, I would entertain a motion regarding the change.
I'll make a motion to revise board policy 5418.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to revise board policy 5418 as it is presented. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. carries with all board members voting in favor. 9.4.1, this is a bid to accept concerning the air conditioning at the Cedar Hollow Gymnasium. Does the Building and Site Committee have anything to add?
Well, this has been on our agenda for months now, and we've been waiting for bids, and we had one that didn't look the same, so we made sure that they were essentially apples to apples, which they were. I don't know, so do we not use names? And regardless, we took the lowest bid of the two. They are supposed to be identical. The scope of the work, one happened to be a frame air unit, the other one happened to be a Lennox unit, I guess. So that was the only real difference, but everything else was the same. And, I don't know. Most of us don't live with air conditioning in our houses, and I think it's time that this gets done.
I didn't have no air conditioning in the house I grew up in. I'm just saying.
I'm not here.
I don't understand, honestly, I don't understand this part. We have maybe 3 months that it's used. That's just me, I guess. I don't see the necessity here. But it is what it is at this point, I guess. You got what, March, not even March, probably April, May, half of May, and then you got August and a little bit of September before you shut the air conditioner off. So I don't see it. I just don't see it's not that expensive, but there's other stuff we have that's more needed than this, I guess. But I get it, but I've been a parent there for a long time, and I've never once said, man, it's hot in here. I don't want to go in there, it's too hot, you know what I mean? But I haven't been, when my kids were 7th and 8th grade, we played basketball at Chapman, so I've never been to a ball game there, I guess. But I just don't see the expense there being used very little throughout the year. Not like the science lab being used 3 days a week. Yeah, it's not going to be used 30% of the time it's open. So, this is my thoughts.
Mike, can you, 1R and St. Labori, do they have air conditioning in those gymnasiums?
Yeah.
And how much do they run?
Well,
When school is in session?
Just depends on the weather. I mean, if the weather gets warm, they run.
Okay.
Do they run with their own? Do they have their own unit, or are they?
Yeah.
They're all the same. Or because 1R came off the reason it's in 1R because it came off that addition. I think is what he said, wasn't it?
Off the library.
Yeah, it was just a convenience thing. I think at the time. You know what I mean? I don't think they put it in there on purpose. It's just when they did the addition, they just ran it through the wall and took it into the gym.
Mm-hmm.
The new old gyms here still don't have air conditioning. And the old gym here doesn't have air conditioning yet, which is where all the JV games take place, all the freshmen probably play in the old gym. And there I've gone up in the top row and I said, man, it's on here. But then you got twice as many people in a game like that as you do in 7th and 8th grade. But anyway.
Mr. Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
what, as far as activities used or that take place in the gym between start of school and mid-September, late September, what are our primary event type things?
Well,
Assume middle school volleyball.
Got middle school volleyball, both 7th and 8th grade. Back to school events, hopefully can occur in there. If there's air conditioning, if not, we move them somewhere else. Wouldn't be nearly as positive an event. We don't have another area that can house that number of kids.
So what is, I guess,
For parents.
not to put you on the spot, but what is your thoughts of the necessity of air conditioning in this gym?
Well, we're housed in the Northwest Public School events, and I think it's very warm in there for those events.
But only, I mean, how many do you have in, I don't want to argue with anybody about it, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have a hard time convincing me of it, but,
You
there's
will have
only,
more time
there's only,
convincing me
like
too.
maybe 3 months, there's maybe only 3 months that we would use it.
I agree.
I haven't been in that gymnasium, I got a, third and second grader there, I haven't been in that gymnasium at least since COVID started. Who knows when we'll be able to actually go back in there again, none of the Thanksgiving, you know what I'm saying, the Christmas program didn't happen, which we didn't really air conditioning.
Right, I
program,
completely
but
agree with you, it's only
it's
used
not
for
getting used
3
as
months.
much as it usually does, now, it'll probably come back to where we use it a lot more, but, I haven't been in there for a long time, since I've been in that gymnasium, but I don't have that seventh grade there either.
It's not just the activities either, it's the everyday classes that gets warm in there for the kids and the faculty that are using it. So, I just think since it's our place for housing, activities for the district in terms of at least sporting events, that it should reflect that, and right now it does not, in those times. And I agree with Paul, it's only 3 months of the year at most, but that's a factor, but it's a large factor, and it's uncomfortable.
Okay, thank you.
Be volleyball? What's the first and last, sports? Be volleyball in August,
Yeah, volleyball,
and what's in May?
nothing, track and soccer, but they.
You guys, you do a lot of programs in there in which parents come quite often, and I just know that just because I'm a parent that comes to it.
Do you
And
remember being hot in there?
it's hotter than hell in there.
I don't remember that being hot.
Oh, it's terrible. You don't catch any crosswind. Oh,
And it's 2021.
it's hot.
You need to jump up a little bit.
I would agree.
It's hot.
Quote that one?
No.
But I guess we received,
It gets a little warm.
we received 2 bids, one was, I guess, go to the Eagle.
We have 2 bids, one is from Jerry's at $39,575, and the other is Island Indoor Climate at $28,400.
So the building committee's recommendation would be accept the $28,400 bid from, what was her name?
Island Indoor Climate.
Well, I don't know, Paul's on that committee also. I'd like to ask my recommendation. Aaron, you might need to speak up right now.
I guess, Aaron, you're on the building committee, we know their thoughts, so what is your thought?
Mine's to go ahead and put the air conditioning in.
It is the only gym we host with, which is, what it is, I wish that wasn't true anymore, but, I see that being a bad host, I guess, you know, for your guests, but as far as the parent goes, I can, care less about it, but, as a host of an event, I can see wanting an air conditioner to make it look better, I guess. But it all makes sense, I just don't, think it's, right now, it's a necessity, I guess.
Well, it sounds like there might be the potential for more use, more opportunities, more meetings, more events, might be more likely to happen if you had a more comfortable facility.
Right. We would use it more often at those times if we could have air conditioning.
Are the COVID restrictions on middle school basketball or any middle school event, what are they, COVID restrictions on that as far as participation goes?
Participation.
Well, like at the high school level, we can only have the parents or
For attendance.
whoever lived in the house,
Yeah.
could go to these events. Now it's grandmas or grandpas, and what is the middle school rules on
Well,
that?
right now, we can go 100% because we're not under NSAA.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's, okay.
Yeah, largely under the NSA, and they're at 50%.
Okay. So we can't fill the gymnasium, right now?
Yeah, Cedar Hall, they
Yeah.
just went up to 100% after the Christmas break.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so if we wanna move forward, I would entertain a motion from anyone.
I would make a motion to accept the bid from Island Indoor Climate for air conditioning for the gym at Cedar Hollow. Do I need to use the amount? No.
You've already said it, so you sure can.
I didn't know.
You're already in paper, I'm guessing.
That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second with
There is a motion and a second to approve, the air conditioner bid for the Cedar Hollow Gymnasium from Island Indoor Climate for the amount of $28,400. Is there any further discussion from anyone? Okay, seeing none, we will vote. Come up on my screen. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries with all board members voting in favor. We will move on to, oh, not follow the leader, that's one. Item 9.4.2, concrete bids for both St. Laborie and the high school. I guess this is, we've been working on these for a couple months now. Anyone from the building committee, go ahead.
Well, I guess basically we finally have two bids, for, let's see. Yeah, so it'd be basically for the main section when you walk inside of St. Laborie, I believe the concrete along the building that will go to the south essentially. And then on the back side, the west side of the high school, we have some issues there with some concrete that's been poured, but we have bids from the same two entities. Reimer's Construction for St. Laborie was $13,741. BAD Concrete, $15,169. And then for the high school portion of the deal, Reimer's Construction, $10,400. And BAD Concrete, $12,852. I guess as we talked in our meeting the other day that we've had somebody else do a lot of our concrete work over time, and Mike says it's been a little more difficult to get them to show up in a timely manner. The low bid in this situation, I believe, was Reimer's, and Mike thought they were very prompt, asked for it, and then showed back up with a bid soon. So anyhow, to me, the bids look reasonable. St. Laborie needs to get going. That needs some work, so I would like to see that done. The second school is essentially out to clean up that front entrance and make it a lot nicer and cleaner than it is.
Mike, the bid for St. Laborie, kind of explain to us, it's the whole sidewalk in front of the building, and how far north does it go?
All the way to the split rail fence that they've got on the other side of the.
On the other side of the flagpole?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Does everybody know what I'm talking about there? Okay. And in that, there'll be a handicap wheelchair ramp, to the south doors, put in when this is part of this bid.
Possible. Yeah, possible, because you gotta have a 30-inch landing on that. And that may kick it way out into the parking lot.
But, from what you said the other day, you may make the ramp go the length of the building?
Right, that would be from the north corner, it would just gradually go up to that door.
Gradually taper to that door, correct, okay. And the high school has some repairs to the sidewalk on the west side of the building, where water is coming off the roof. Crystal clear? Any further comments or questions?
With
Otherwise,
the high school repair, is there gonna be something done to help alleviate that being a problem in the future, or is that a roof repair or something that's gonna need to happen, or?
So where a drain comes off, comes down, and the water hits the concrete, so there'll be a trough put in there, so it'll
Okay.
take the water further away from the building. Right now, it's settled to where it's, when it melts even, it comes back into the footings of the building, so this will take care of it and get it
Okay.
going away from it.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion regarding the concrete bids.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid from Reimers Construction on St. Labori. Do we need to do two motions or just one?
It's up to you.
And on the high school.
Both bids from Reimers.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, there is a motion and a second to approve concrete bids from Reimers Construction for St. Labori at the amount of $13,741 and at the high school for $10,400. Is there any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, we will vote.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Paul and then Zach. Okay, motion carries with everyone voting in favor. Move on to item 9.5. This is to approve the superintendent's contract with Dr. Edwards for the 21 through 23 years. This is what, I guess this has been published already for 3 weeks, or how long has it been, right?
5 days, or
It's been on the website.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. So this is what we discussed at the last board meeting and now are acting on tonight. Does anyone have any questions regarding the superintendent's contract? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the superintendent's contract with Jeffrey Edwards for the 21-23 academic.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There is a motion and a second to approve the superintendent's contract with Dr. Jeffrey F. Edwards for the 2021 through 2023 school year as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Okay, motion carries with everyone voting in favor. We'll now move on to item 10, Dr. Edwards' report to the board.
Okay, apologize for not getting this to the team in the mail this morning, so your board administrator, you have a hard copy in front of you. From Paul and Aaron, first page has an article saying start off on the right foot is a new school board member, so just kind of some things for you to read through on your own. On the back side, at the bottom, 2 tips for better board meetings: arrive early. And thank you for arriving early today because we kind of surprised you with new Chromebooks. And then start off on a positive note, and we do that each meeting when we, have our PLC share out. And, we'll start taking some look at, or having some discussions on how else we can kind of change the start of our board meetings to spice it up, and there will be some months where we will have some student recognitions prior to the board meeting. So this month we didn't have any, but there will be certain months or certain board meetings throughout the year where we do some student recognitions as well. So, legislative update. Had a couple of questions on some specific bills. I'll kind of run through those, and each of you should have a login to the NASB, your membership portal. If you do not, I can get that to you, but NASB, or the School Boards Association, has a legislative page on there where they talk about what the legislative committee of the school boards group has gotten together and kind of taken some positions on bills. So I just quickly reviewed that this afternoon. The school administrators group also has one, and we get sometimes daily updates throughout the session. Typically on Sunday night we get a bill summary. They let us know what hearings are coming up. We're in the presence of a presenter or Zach had the opportunity to go down and speak last week on a bill. So he is the resident expert on that. So
it had nothing to do with school funding.
no, but got to see him on TV. So, but LB 36 is the bill is Senator Erdman's. It's in the Education Committee. It's required the display of the national motto in schools. LB 36 requires each school board must prominently display the national motto of the United States, "In God We Trust," written legibly in English in each classroom or in another prominent place in each school building where each student will be able to see and read it each day school is in session. And when I first looked, the School Board Association opposes it, and I thought, why would you oppose that? Well, they're opposing it from the standpoint of it's an unfunded mandate, because it would require you to either print posters or do something, and there wouldn't be any outside additional funding for it. So the School Boards Association opposes LB 36, and I don't believe it's had a hearing at this time, and I'm not sure where it comes up or whether it'll even make it out of committee.
If I'm not mistaken, has he brought this same type of bill up in past years?
I don't remember "In God We Trust" specifically. Several years ago, like every day we started off the school day saying the Pledge of Allegiance. That was a bill that was brought forward probably 6-8 years ago. So there's been a similar type bill, but this is
that requires everyone to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right. In that bill that it passes you?
That is, we do that on a daily basis.
But we can't do anything if they don't do it?
Technically, no.
Then what's the point of the bill?
Those that want to participate.
So it's still an option if they want to participate or not?
But we're required to do it as a school system on a daily basis.
Because the student isn't required to participate. Who's the sponsor of that bill?
On this one, and "In God We Trust," is Senator Erdman.
Erdman? Where's he from?
He's from out west. North and west of North Platte, somewhere. I can't remember the exact town.
LB 133 was the next bill, and it is called the Epic Consumption Tax Act, and not a single education group is looking at this one. So school boards, they don't have it on any of their review, school administrators don't. And this is Senator Erdman as well. Basically, the Epic Consumption Tax Act, where the word EPIC is an acronym which stands for Elimination of Property, Income, and Corporate Taxes. Legislation will repeal the state income tax, the state sales tax, the state inheritance tax, and all property taxes, and replace them with a consumption tax. And I took this right off of the senator has a page where he kind of does an update on a weekly update for his constituents, and there is some provisions under the consumption tax for those living at or below the federal poverty rate would make no net contributions and taxes to the state, and he kind of goes through and talks about it. One of the concerns raised initially on this was what he calls border bleed. some worry that folks living in Omaha would buy their goods in Council Bluffs in order to avoid paying the consumption tax. But the argument from Border Bleed overlooks the fact that goods in Nebraska would come with a cheaper price tag than goods in Iowa. For instance, a can of motor oil in Nebraska might sell for 95 cents without all the hidden taxes. This is just an example. Giving it a final cost of $1.03 with the consumption tax. However, in Iowa, that same can of motor oil would sell for $1 because of the hidden tax. And after you tack on their sales tax, the final cost would be $1.08. So I don't know where that bill's going or whether it'll even make it out of committee. So
Apparently there are, I think, 5 states that have a consumption tax. And they're all between 9.5% and 10.5%. But you only,
Kentucky is one.
yeah, I think Arkansas is another one. But you only tax new goods. So the resale of anything is not taxed.
LB 364, adopt the Opportunity Scholarship Act and provide tax credits. This one was LB 670 last year, and basically this would create a scholarship. Individual and corporate taxpayers would qualify for a non-refundable tax credit equal to the amount the taxpayer contributed to a scholarship granting organization. Basically, if you sent your student to a parochial school, you could offset a portion of their tuition on your taxes. So, no taxpayer may receive tax credits in an amount exceeding 50% of their state income tax liability. Each nonprofit scholarship granting organization certified by the Nebraska Department of Revenue must provide education scholarships to assist eligible students to attend a qualified nonprofit private elementary or secondary school. NASB and NCSA both oppose this. Basically, they're saying that for calendar year 2022, the amount of credits granted shall not exceed 10 million, but there's no provision or sunset on that. So in a certain time period, that could grow up to 94 million of state dollars that would not be available for either K-12 or higher ed. So, and the governor is well in support of Senator Lenahan's.
Well, does she brings it forth on his behalf,
Yes.
right?
Yep. So.
But she did the same thing last year. Did it even make it on committee?
Correct.
It didn't make it on committee.
It came out of committee on a special loophole. So the committee didn't vote for it, but Senator Groney pulled it as a priority vote. So it made it to the floor. But it did not get approved. So. And then 408, Senator Breezy's Adopt the Property Tax Request Act. There's also a version of this, LR 22CA by Senator Lenahan. 408 creates Property Tax Request Act and applies to school districts, ESUs, and all other political subdivisions. The bill provides that a political subdivision's property tax request for any year may not exceed its property tax request in the prior year by more than 3%, except, and then there's some exclusions to that 3%. The 3% would not apply to a portion of a political subdivision's property tax request that is needed to pay the principal and interest on approved bonds. Would not apply to the portion of a political subdivision property tax request that will be derived from the real growth value for the political subdivision. I have no idea what that means. So, but basically, it would cap your general fund spending authority by 3%. So, and NASB and NCSA, both 408's held in committee, but both groups oppose that. So,
But what are the groups that are supporting it? I mean, is it like, I'm trying to think of the ag groups that are supporting it. Steve Hansen,
He's Farm Bureau, or he was on Farm Bureau.
And, I mean, isn't there certain other groups that are proponents of it?
To my knowledge, I haven't read that before, so can't really answer that. Basically, the groups that are opposing it are going by that should be a local control issue, so should the state take that authority away from the local school district? So. And then the last one is Senator Friesen's 454. And this one creates a school property tax stabilization program which would direct state aid to school districts whose property taxes required to fund its formula needs. After accounting TIOSA aid and other actual receipts, if they exceed 70% of formula needs, the state aid would equal 50% of the difference between the property tax required and 70% of formula needs. The bill also reduces the assessed value of ag land for purposes of funding schools over a 2-year period from 75% of actual value to 55% of actual value. So, in essence, that really wouldn't, well, for us, it would drive our levy up because we're not at the $1.05, so you're going to recoup that difference between 75%, 55% by evaluation increase, or by levy increase.
Yeah, you're asking from your taxpayers wouldn't change, but this bill wouldn't affect us as far as state aid goes because
we're not equal.
We don't ask for more than 70% of our budget from our local taxpayers.
Correct. And NASB is following, they have not taken a position on 454. You want to talk about your bill or no? No. So, a lot of action going on. We'll keep an eye on these bills as they continue to move forward. They have not started floor debate at this time yet, so a lot of committee meetings and a lot of hearings, so keep observing. That's all I've got for you.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Edwards on the superintendent's report? Okay, seeing none. That brings us to the end of our meeting, and we are adjourned.